Mr. Irrelevant is what the NFL calls it. Last guy to go, last guy to get drafted. But I'm glad to be here, and appreciate you guys coming to watch this. There's been a lot of presentations over the last 3 or 4 days, even at the owners conference, about AI. Sometimes I can hear some threads of the things we started talking about 6 months ago from my company. And it's really cool to see the impact that messaging has had. And I do feel like it's just like playing a game of telephone. The more people pass it on, it gets a little altered and a little altered. So we'll try to clean some of that up today. And we'll share some data with you guys, exactly how golf courses are using AI and the impact it's having. And then at the end, of course, we'll be available for questions. And even if you want to stop me in the middle, that is totally fine. I do a lot of these, and they tend to be real practical, real nuts and bolts, and so you won't bother me if you want to stop me. Let's talk first about the impact AI is having, the how many people are using AI, and I think that's important. And it's not just in golf, it's generally with all small businesses. The small business operator, so that's the PGA professional, or the small business owner, there is a tendency to, let's say, experience slow adoption. And that's totally fine. Nobody's here to judge that. But when someone says to you, oh, golf we're so slow to adopt, it's actually not golf. It's all small businesses. So don't let that get tagged on golf, all right? That is actually inaccurate. But the data that we're seeing and the experience that we're having, when I say we, it's this company that I founded, SMB Golf. We are at a time that somebody has to stand up and talk to operators and say, this is not 2 years away. This is when you get back to Louisville, Kentucky, when you get back to Atlanta, Georgia, when you get back to wherever you're going from coming to the show. This is next Monday if you're not engaging with AI. The moment is now, it is not tomorrow. This data here that you're looking at, this is from the Federal Reserve. And so in my company, we use a lot of data, and we like to use data from the Federal Reserve. And even the Federal Reserve is saying, listen, the adoption is real. And if you think the adoption stops at the age of 30, you would be wrong. And if you think, oh, well, people use AI more at work than they use at home or away from work. And by the way, if you're in the golf industry, we actually care about away from work. Right? Golf is a leisure activity. We want to know how people use this away from. Well, good news for golf, people use it more away from work than they do at work, right? And the age range here that you're looking at on the thing on the left, and the age range is up to the age of 65. So this is not, it's just something my kid, this is not TikTok, all right? This is much more impactful. And as a business operator, it's really incumbent on you to understand how consumers behave. And that's what this data speaks to. Another way to look at this, like how fast is this thing coming on? Does it really matter? Maybe it's a fad. Well, adoption outpaces what we saw adoption of the internet. Adoption outpaces what we saw across the personal computer. This is the most remarkable consumer experience we've seen, the most downloads we've seen, the fastest hockey stick we've seen of anything that's come around in ages and ages. Now, I mentioned we saw lots of AI presentations, and I think they're all great, and I salute everybody that's talking about that. We're not going to talk today about the fact that you could literally take a photograph with your phone of all the Post-it notes on your desk about who needs off next week and create a schedule. We're not even going to talk about that. That's a cool little productivity thing. There's a million ways to use that. That is not what this is about. This is about going a couple layers deeper and really thinking about, could this actually change my business? Right? Not just maybe save me some time personally. Could this change our business? And so that's what we'll talk about today. Now, I've mentioned SMB, just a little bit on me. I'm not a PGA professional. A lot of friends that are PGA professionals. I'm not a PGA professional. And I also don't own a golf course. My role is to help businesses in golf grow, whether it's golf courses, private clubs, or even vendor companies. They hire me to help them grow their business. And so I tend to think about the business of golf. I'm not an experienced guy. If you came to me and said, can you help me, provide a better experience for a golfer, I would tell you no. That's not how I'm wired. I'm wired to think about the business of golf, and I'm not afraid to talk about every golf course and every PGA professional making more money in 26 than they made in 25. I think that's a good thing. Like we should want our businesses to grow. We should want our personal income to grow. And so that's how I'm wired. That's what I think about. I spend a lot of time with the Ohio Golf Course Owners Association. Again, I'm trying to help those guys grow their business. And so that's just the mindset that I come at this thing from. I am from Ohio, from Columbus. We've got two brothers that we claim, and I know people in North Carolina like to talk about them, but they're Ohioans. The Wright brothers got a plane up in the air before anybody else did, and that's great, and it's exciting, and I think we all know that. But what we might not know is what happened so quickly after that. Like, how did that impact the country, the world? It had a tremendous impact on the world, just like AI will. In 11 years, there were commercial airline flights. People don't think about that. They don't realize that. From the time that rickety plane got up in the air at Cape Hatteras, in 11 years, there were commercial airline flights. That's incredibly fast, and the people that got in early won. So don't think that when something remarkable comes along, it needs to bake forever. But if you're still skeptical of that, you might not know how long AI has been baking. So we can talk about when it started to become relevant and we started to be able to touch it. You can talk about IBM Watson and how IBM Watson beat the best chess player in the world in a game of chess, and that blew everybody's mind that a computer could beat this chess master. Siri was an early iteration of that. But they had been cooking AI for more than 50 years before that. It actually took AI a much longer amount of time to get going than air flight. Here's a kind of a synopsis of it, if you will. And the last 5-6 years have been unbelievable. If you think that ChatGPT sounds new, ChatGPT's been in the App Store for 2.5 years. Think of all the apps that have been released since ChatGPT, right? I just don't want you to be afraid or hesitant because it's new. It's not. It is now, and there is a tremendous opportunity for you. And that's not the guts of the presentation, but it's a, hey, let's position this thing the right way. I don't want you to think this sounds like tomorrow. This is yesterday, it's today. Okay, so first, let's talk about time. Because I think time is an enemy for so many people, especially in business, as we have less people to come and work, and there's more demands on the experience we want to provide. Time is a serious, serious challenge, and it's one of the big problems that AI is really good at solving. If you think, well, I don't know if I have a time problem, well, how much time do you spend pulling reports? What if that went away? How much time do you spend, or how much time does your business spend on the phone answering the same question? Like, how many times in one day when it's been rainy do you pick up the phone and they say, are we cart path only today? Just the same answer over and over and over. And you don't want to be a jerk on the phone. You want to be polite. We're in the hospitality business. We want to be welcoming. But it's tough. And it feels like it's wasted time. Like, I already answered that question. I don't want to answer it again. What about, how many times do you get to 5:30 at night and you look at somebody in the shop and you say, did we pick the range yet? Oh my God, we got to pick the range before it gets dark. We got to go. Stuff like that can all be solved with AI. I think the range thing, I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. I think it's obvious, right? I think that's like, yeah, of course. Set the boundaries up, turn the machine on, tell it to go get the balls. I don't want to touch this anymore. You can do that. There's probably 7 vendors down there that'll help you do it. That's today, it's not tomorrow. What about report generation? I mean, this is a little more, you know, not as sexy, nobody loves reports. Do you have to email somebody at your company and say, can you pull this for me? Do you go do it yourself and you set this filter and you set this filter? And then, do you ultimately get the report and then you think to yourself, okay, what does it say? How much time am I going to spend analyzing it? Then am I going to think about, well, okay, I think I understand what it says, but now what am I going to do about it? Well, AI can fix that too. Here's two companies right here. I'm not here to sell anybody's company for them. Here's two companies right here where you can write, these are called prompts. I think you guys know that when you use AI. You can write a little message to the AI and say whatever it says here on the screen, or you can say, you know, what should we do about leagues in whatever it is. And these two companies are wired in a way that the AI goes and reads your data. It doesn't go to the universe, right? It's not gonna go out and try to find data from every golf course in America. It's gonna read your data, and it's gonna come back to you and say, here's the report you were looking for, and oh, by the way, my recommendation is this, if you wanna take it, right? That's like you just added an employee, you just added some business analyst to your business, and he's there to like create ideas and to get you to think. That's amazing. That's a huge time saver. And maybe you read something in the, let's call this thing an agent. Maybe you read something in the agent's reply that you don't exactly agree with, but it sparks another idea. It's like adding another person to bounce ideas off of in this perspective. That's outstanding. That's outstanding. What about the phone? What about, so who here is a golf operator? Runs a golf course, used to run a golf course? Yeah. I mean, clearly, obviously, I'm older, but there was a time call centers were very normal in golf, right? I mean, that is not unusual to the guys my age. Big call centers. I used to work a lot with Andy Weeks and Allison Weeks at W5. Big call centers, answering all kinds of calls for all kinds of golf courses, and incredibly labor intensive. I used to go to their office in Chicago and literally look at like a bank of all those seats there filled with people on the phone. They didn't work for free. It was an expensive proposition, but there were golf courses that still did it because that's how busy they were with the phones, et cetera, et cetera. And they're just that busy today, by the way. Today, those seats can all be empty like they actually are. Today, that can all be automated. And by the way, it is being. Again, I talk about this isn't tomorrow. So there's over 100 golf courses in North America right now. AI's answering the phone for them, right? And that's nice for me because we have this data company and we can go survey those golf courses and we can ask them questions. And since I'm not doing that on behalf of a vendor, I'm doing it for my data company, I get really good, honest answers, right? And so we've built a business around that. At any rate, here's some of that data. So of all these golf courses that are already using it, right, 80% said before we put AI in here, the phone was either overwhelming or what was it, or at least disruptive. 80%. So likely most golf courses in North America are not fans of the phone. Let's put it that way. Most golf courses in North America probably would say, hey, the phone it creates friction here. When Jamie answers the phone, sometimes she's not in a good mood. Sometimes the golfer isn't in a good mood. There's friction around the phone. Well, we could fix that. So we went and surveyed, and I'll show you the company in a second. We went and surveyed lots and lots of golf courses that are using AI for their phone today. Some of those golf courses were like, I don't know if I love it, whatever. But even the golf courses, and that was a small number, even the golf courses that were a little indifferent to it said to us in the survey, no, it did save us time. No, not one single golf course we surveyed said, no, this didn't save us time. That's remarkable. Like if we're answering the phone for hundreds and hundreds of golf courses already, and we couldn't find a single golf course that said it didn't save us time, that would be an indicator to every potential prospect out there that you probably should have a look at this. That's a pretty remarkable stat. Where did the time, so then after they got into the survey, we started to ask them, well, if you saved time, which you said you did, what'd you do with it, right? A lot of people said we got to spend more time with the golfer in the shop. And I think a lot of people know that listen, if I'm on the phone and 3 people walk in, it's hard to go engage. I think everybody understands that scene, if you will. And so that spiked very high in the survey. The other thing that I thought stood out, because the PGA of America is talking lots and lots about like work-life balance. The other thing that stood out to me was reduce stress for the team. That it was just a more comfortable place to work than it was, 6 months before we put it in type of thing. I think that's important. I think it's important to think about what is the vibe. Ultimately, it leads to culture. What is the vibe among the team that's running the golf shop, the team that's answering the phone? If you can lower their stress, I think that's a win. I think that's a win. To me, similar to adding a business analyst and being able to have that conversation about data and reports, to me, this is similar to adding that person that we used to see at the club or at the golf course that sat near the front door and answered the phone and greeted people when they walked in the door. I think that's what you can do with this AI. I think you can kind of recreate that experience again, where someone calls in, they're engaged, maybe they get today's cart path rules, maybe they hear something about the F&B special, and then if they want to talk to a human, they can, or if they want to talk and get a tee time, they probably don't need to engage a human. And that's interesting, right? So all this data, by the way, came from CourseRev, so I thank them. They actually, after I told them we surveyed their customers, which I probably could have called the guy and said, hey, I'm going to survey your customers, but we surveyed them first. And so he was nice, and he sent us some more data. I think there's a couple data points that are here interesting. 280,000 tee times they booked with AI in 2025. Not 10,000, not 40,000, not 80,000. 280,000 tee times. So this is, to me, again, I go back to 100% of the people said they saved time. It's clearly not in beta. They booked over 250,000 tee times. It was over $13.8 million that went through an AI agent to book the tee time. To me, that feels real, right? To me, that feels real. I think there was one other data point in here. 66 seconds. So basically, 1 minute. That was a 1-minute experience that we gave back to Jimmy. The vibe in the shop was better, and we actually sold a tee time. That is interesting. That is interesting. That's an opportunity to improve your business. And by the way, they're not the only ones doing it, right? So certainly I think CourseRev is newer to the industry overall, been on the scene for a couple of years. Anybody here know who Sagacity is? So Sagacity is the original Golf Now founders, right before they sold it. Really good development team, just a smart bunch of guys, and actually guys and gals. So they're offering it. And then we got a company out of Australia, and they've just broken into the American market. I think they have one course in Texas. But you've got these two brands that have lots and lots of golf courses using their AI products. And what's really cool about CourseRev and Sagacity, they have free options. I think those two leaders understand that even though they know how well this works, it is a new concept. And so they've both stepped up to the plate like in the last 60 days and said, I've got a free option. I don't know what else the operator would ask for, right? That's really, I think, everything you could ask for. Data that says it works, real revenue running through it, and now these guys are saying I can use some version of it for free. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great question. So the question essentially is, does CourseRev have interfaces? 100%. 100%. Lightspeed, 4Up, Club Caddy, like on and on. And actually, same with Sagacity. Even though Sagacity has their own tee sheet, they're integrated to 4UP and to Lightspeed and to Club Caddy, right? Like, yeah, it's a great question. Sorry I didn't put it in here. Feels like I would have been selling too much, I think, if I put it in there. But yeah, all that stuff. So, and I think the other thing that says is they're not scrapers. They're not coming over the top and like looking for inventory and then trying to do. No. These are good relationships, doing it the right way. Let's talk about discovery. And this is just the second part that I think you really got to be dialed in on. And honestly, it's the part you heard more and more people talk about this week. I think they saw some of the stuff that I did at TechCon. I think they've seen some of the articles we've written. And so this is kind of where I want to clean up some things. To me, discovery, like it could be, you could be different words. Some people might call it marketing. Some people might call it social media. At the end of the day, to me, you're running a hospitality business. You want people to be able to find you, right? That's discovery, right? And so the question starts to become not how do I use AI as a consumer? This is thinking about how does the consumer use AI and how do I make sure they find me when they do it? That's this concept, right? That's like, let's go one step further and figure out, well, if I'm clearly, the guy showed the graph and more than half the people are using AI already, I'm in this game whether I was invited to it or not, I'm in it, I might as well get good at it, right? And that's really what we're going to talk about with discovery. Again, I'm older. I remember as a young golfer using the Yellow Pages to find golf courses in Columbus, Ohio. That was my earliest version of discovery. That then, sometimes they played radio commercials, sometimes they played TV. Then ultimately, I, along with, billions of other people, I learned how to use the internet for discovery and the internet for search. And clearly, that dominates discovery today. But I want to show you what consumers are experiencing in real time. It's happening today, it happened yesterday, et cetera. So, and of course, I'm going to shill here for golf courses that are members of the Ohio Golf Course Owners Association. But this is me in Cleveland, Ohio. And you can see in the middle top of the screen, I just say, what's the best golf course near me? That's all I'm asking you. Just tell me. And so these golf courses come up. Well, you got Lakewood Country Club, and you got North Olmsted. And we're going to talk about why those golf courses come up. But know this, all that middle stuff there, that does not come from thin air. There has to be a source for that to get populated. Okay, so keep that in mind. But what's interesting is, just like you guys would be used to when someone searches your golf course on Google, and a lot of you guys, you have this panel that comes up over on the right, and Google offers more and more information about the golf. Here's their website, and maybe here's how you book a tee time. Well, ChatGPT is not just going to give that away to Google. And so they've already addressed it. Right now, if I click on, so you can see in the middle of the page, great options a bit further, parentheses, driving distance. So I click on Valley of the Eagles, and this panel on the right opens up. And it's got all this information. And so I'm thinking, if I'm managing Valley of the Eagles, I'm thinking, did I write that? Did that information come from me? Or did they get it from Golf Now? Or did they get it from a collection of, I don't know where that, right? And so you do need to pay attention to this. I'm not trying to put more on your plate, but again, you're in the game. You should know that this is going on. So I think as a small team at your business, as a larger organization, let's say you're with Heritage Golf Group, right? I do think you need to figure out if you're comfortable and if you even know the answer to these two questions. One, do you want the AI platforms to know all of the details about your business? You just got to figure that out. If you just say, well, I'm old-fashioned, and I don't know why, Mike, I'm saying this, but I'm saying no. I don't want AI to know all these details about, okay, at least we know where you are, right? And now we understand where you are, and then we can go operate from that data point. The other question would be, especially if you say no, and especially with some of the data I just shared, do you believe there are people going to ChatGPT and to Gemini and to Perplexity and on and asking questions about golf? Because if you do believe that, but you gave me a no on the first one, I would say, well, can we double back? Can we because I think you do want these platforms and these systems to know everything about you. And the reason I think you want them to know everything about you is because you don't want these systems and platforms to get that information from another source. If someone is out there saying, well, I can tell you about value of the Eagles, you just assume it come from you, right? You want to be the source for that information. Now, this is important, especially at the PGA Show, right? This is not just about golf courses. We've got thousands of instructors that are going through the exact same thing. Maybe your instruction page is on the golf course website, or maybe it's your own website. But this is clearly not about just golf courses. This is about every kind of consumer, retail, hospitality experience that you could think of, right? And so this is one of the guys that I work for, also in Ohio. And that picture you see, we only made that picture available through some back-end stuff. So I knew that if that picture ever surfaced in ChatGPT or even in Google, I knew they got it through our code work, right? And so that's one way you can test some of the, and we'll get into it in a minute. But you're not finding a lot of other golf instructors that have all their data organized for ChatGPT to understand, have their brand set up the right way. I know it sounds new, and I know for a lot of people it sounds like work, but it's something that you should be dialed in on, again, yesterday. Let's go to this. I just want to remind you, before we go further, about the rate of adoption. The rate of adoption is super important to keep in mind. This is the term that I've heard bungled a few times this week. So we're going to go over it again. It's this motto that we came up with at SMB Golf. We'll talk about it, but we'll talk about why it's important. You don't want Google. You don't want Facebook. You don't want Instagram to be the primary source about your business. That should be your website. And so I would ask you this question. And by the way, I don't sell websites. I'm not here to sell you a website. You should ask yourself this question. If the website is the primary source of truth and information about my business, how much time and thought do I put into my website? There was someone at a presentation on Wednesday that said, hey, it was about AI, hey, in 2 years, can I just get rid of my website? That is actually the opposite of how you should be thinking. And by the way, don't look at your website only as a golfer is going to come look at this thing and will the golfer enjoy it. You need to be thinking about your website of, did I organize this thing properly so that ChatGPT and Gemini understand it? That's the game that's going on that so many people don't know about. So you need to be thinking about, yes, of course I want my website to be attractive, and I want it to be easy for a golfer to get some information from, but there's a whole other game going on the baseball field 2 blocks down that you don't even know about, and that's the game you should be thinking about. You should be thinking about, all right, what do I need to do so that Golf Now isn't the entity that gets quoted more about my business than me? You should think that way, right? And obviously I'm kind of inferring that the opposite is happening right now, because some companies are great at what we're going to talk about, and they are leveraging golf course brands to provide lots of information to ChatGPT, and you should know that. You should know that. So who here has heard of like this concept of structured data? Or maybe you've seen me speak before about schema. Everybody's running around saying schema, schema, schema. Well, let's talk about this. So there is a way that you can write code, And I know that sounds overwhelming, but there is golf course specific code. Thank God it exists. Thank God schema.org decided to bless us with our own version of schema. That's a great, great thing. Trampoline parks don't have that, right? But golf courses do. The problem is nobody knows it. So therefore nobody uses it, right? Let's just talk about it in detail for a second. This is going into websites, and this is something that we do for people, but this is going in to each page of the website and installing some code that tells ChatGPT and Gemini and others, and frankly Google as well, that tells them this is the name of the business, this is where it's located, this is the link you use to book a tee time, this is the link you use to join the wait list, and on and on and on. Usually every page we write schema for, it's over 100 lines. It is a detailed approach to making sure that all these bots know the truth about our business and that they don't get the information elsewhere. And here's the thing. If I can make it really easy for these bots to read the information, it actually saves them energy, and they start to favor my website more. And when I say energy, I mean literally computing time that they have to spend on that site to process that information. For my clients, what we do is we say, look, we're going to play by all the rules. We're not going to be rebels. We're going to play by all the rules, and we're going to provide all the information about your golf course exactly the way these platforms want it. We want them to like us, right? And we want them to get more and more information from us. And so that is the strategy. Now, you may be wondering, and I think it's fair, what about my website? Maybe my website has schema. Maybe my vendor said, hey, did you see that thing that Mike wrote? Don't listen to him. Of course we're doing your schema for you. Well, maybe they are, but maybe they're doing it the wrong way. Maybe they aren't doing it at all, and they still told you they're doing it, right? So I think because it's your business, you ought to be able to measure it yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about here. So we've created this, I guess it's down here at the bottom, checkmyschema.golf. Checkmyschema.golf. We also have checkmywebsite.golf. The first one I mentioned is simply, look, we're not unbelievable engineers at SMB Golf. It's going to forward you to somebody else's site where you can run a test on your website. So one is going to go to the company, schema.org, and you're going to land on this address, validator.schema. You're going to just type in your website address. You're going to hit go, and it's going to spin, and it's going to spin, and it's going to spin. It's going to come back, and it's going to tell you, this is how your schema looks on that particular page you just gave me. So it should look like this. So this is a customer of ours, Back Creek, right? And this is only reading Back Creek's homepage, but we do different schema for each page. And if you don't see in the detected column, if you don't see golf course, and your vendor is some golf technology company, and they told you they took care of your schema, that's a problem. That's a problem. I would typically give them one pass. I'd go back to them and I'd say, hey, I took a look at that myself. I don't think we're on the same page. You're telling people I'm a local business. Of course I'm a local business. But did you know schema lets me tell people I'm actually a golf course? That's what that should look like, okay? By the way, I think we can do it for more than just golf courses or tee times. We can do event venue schema. We can do schema around weddings. We can do schema around restaurants. We can do schema around clubs. We can do schema specific to reservations. There is a whole world out there that you guys could take advantage of now. And here's what's really cool about it. When I showed you Kelly's instructor page, or I showed you a Back Creek right there, what's awesome is no one else is doing it in golf. So you get to be one of the, the early 500 or 1,000 cohort that went to some PGA show where some bald guy said something about schema and you picked up on it, right? So you do have an opportunity to be in early and win on this thing. Another thing you should do with your schema, you should connect it to your Google business profile. I talk about what you don't own and what you do own, right? And you don't own your Google business profile, but my God, a lot of people go to it. And so what we do for our clients, I guess this would be subjective, but I believe in it. What we do for our clients is we put in specific IDs in the schema. So we tell all the bots, hey, that business profile over there that so many people go to, that's this same business, right? And we don't want there to be any doubt about that. We do same as stuff around Instagram and Facebook, but when it comes to the Google business profile, we actually connect them to each other. There is another opportunity when it comes to discovery and AI more specific to tee times. And this is kind of probably a little bit, you start to think about scraping and this, that, and the other. So this screenshot here comes from a podcast that I host. I host a podcast called Tech Caddy, and we talk about horses. No, we only talk about golf technology. So this is in development, so this is not live, but they let us look at it, and we did it live in a podcast. You will begin to see people go to ChatGPT and look for tee times, and not just look for them, they're going to buy them from ChatGPT. And I don't want you to be freaked out by that. They're not going to change the price. You're going to get paid. You're going to get the golfer data because in this case, the reservation finishes in your booking engine. Okay? So there's a new breed of developers out there now. They're not coming over the top and trying to grab your golfer data and trying to get between you and the golfer. There's a whole new breed of developers. And they understand the mistakes that we made in the past when it comes to golfer data and who owns the golfer and who doesn't. All these new guys get that. But they're saying, but what if I develop something so that when a golfer did use ChatGPT, the experience could be amazing and they could just buy the tee time right there? Well, that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. And if you, I think it's totally fair if you say, well, screw you, Hendrix. You haven't owned a golf course. I disagree with you. That's fair. That's fair. I'm just telling you, don't be afraid of this. These guys just want to be part of the ecosystem to help people play more golf. And I hope you would be open to that. That would be my 2 cents on that. Now, I'm not suggesting this is easy. This is this discovery stuff. This is certainly harder than going to one of the phone guys and saying, can we turn on AI phone? That's easy. This is a little harder, right? But a lot of people solve hard things today by asking AI how to solve them. I mean, think about that, right? Maybe you decide, hey, that thing he said about the website, he's right. I'm going to treat my website as well as I treat my greens. Like, the website is really stinking important. And I'm going to do this myself because I'm a small business owner and I believe in do it yourself. I promise you, you can figure out how to do this using ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever. It's going to take you some time. You're going to make some mistakes. But I'm not up here to tell you there's only one agency in the world that can do this. You can do this. You can do this. I will say this. This is another thing that we see when we deal with vendor websites. And by the way, I never say to a golf course, oh, let's not have him build your website anymore. Let's do this. Our approach has always been, I'm not here to disrupt the business of the software company. My approach has been, I just want to fix your website for you. I just want to make it better. And we don't care what platform it's on. We know we can fix it, okay? But one thing to keep in mind, if your website has 12 pages, and even we went in and fixed all your schema, it's still going to only have 12 pages, right? Like, a website today in the golf business, you should be really good at representing your food and beverage options. You should be really good at representing what events you can host. In our case, when we do like redesigns of websites, all 18 holes get their own page. And people will say to me, they'll say, how many golfers do you really think are going to look at all 18 holes? And I say to them, I love golfers, but I'm not doing it for the golfer. You know how much data every stinking hole has on your golf course? They've got geo coordinates on, we map the tee box, we map the green, we tell ChatGPT about that, we understand all the different yardages, we actually share with ChatGPT, here's how many bunkers are on this hole, here's the elevation change of this hole, here's how many bodies of water are on this hole, and oh, by the way, if they decided to name the hole, we certainly start the page with that. But a lot of holes aren't named. We tell ChatGPT who the architect is, we tell ChatGPT who the superintendent is. There is so much data in golf that you can share, and essentially you're doing it so the vacuum sucks it up. And the reason you want the vacuum to grab it is because you want them to have more data about you than the guy you compete with. Because if they know more about you than the guy you compete with, they're going to talk about you more. And it is a big, big game. So it's not easy, but it's something that you should do. Let's go through some of this stuff. Ask yourself this question. Do you have a page dedicated just to the golf shop? I mean, the golf shop's like where everybody comes in. And assumably you sell things in the golf shop. Do you think about your golf shop like a little store? And do you do a good job of telling that story? Do you say that like, yeah, we have a restaurant. It doesn't have a name or anything. Or do you like say, no, we have a real restaurant. And here's our menu. And here's what we do with it. And here's about our Friday nights. And I get it. Everybody says this. When you run a golf course, it's like you run 6 or 7 businesses, and they're right. It is a lot of work. I'd be the last one to say that, oh, this is no big deal, and you can knock this out in one night. That's not the case. But I am this guy. I was raised in a way like if you're going to do it, you ought to do it right. You ought to do it right. I don't know how many golf course vendors have built websites in the last 5 years where they really make this a priority. But if they didn't, it was a miss. It was a miss. This thing is the most important digital property you have. There's the example of every hole. Then, why not put pages on your website that you don't even put in the menu, just on the front end, and make it easy for scrapers to read and understand? All of this stuff should be done. And this is like by default. This is how your vendor should deliver the website to you on day one. All of this stuff should be done. Again, if you think you own your Facebook page and in your mind you're like, yeah, we don't really do a lot with the website, but we're awesome on Facebook. That's great to be awesome. I just want you to know that tomorrow you could wake up and Facebook could completely change that page. You didn't pay Facebook for that page. They didn't sign a contract with you that says it's going to last forever. That's their business. And it's the same with Google. Your Google business profile, all the rules around your Google business profile could change tomorrow. Could change. But the one thing that, generally speaking, nobody can mess with is your domain. Your golfcourse.com. That's yours. Obviously, it depends on where you host it. You might have to abide by a couple of rules, but that thing belongs to you. And that's why you should value it so much, because you want all of the information that people learn about your golf course, you want that website to be the primary source. That's what really matters the most. And by the way, notice I don't say only source. I say primary. I want Google to know about you. And I want Google to share information about you. Of course we do. But I prefer that Google gets that from my website. I want my website to be where everything emanates from. Okay. So that's it for me. I'm available for questions. I'm easy to find. I live in this town called Upper Arlington, Ohio. A guy named Jack learned to play golf there. A guy named Bobby Jones won the U.S. Open there. It's a rich, rich golf town. And we're just trying to contribute to that golf history in Upper Arlington. So thanks for coming, and safe travels going home.